Yay! All right. So welcome everyone to this alumni panel with students who are UNC Asheville graduates, recent graduates, and have had different pathways to medical and dental school. And for the students who are part of the pre-health professions student group leadership, they are gonna take notes, and that is in the calendar invite. So if y'all would open the calendar invite, and you will see at the top where you will take notes, and it's highlighted in green. All right, so I see May, I see Mary, so let's have you go first. If you would just kind of introduce yourself, just the stuff that you put, I had the students also, I had our alumni fill out a little form. So like, what program are you in? What's the name of it? Where is it? What did you major or minor in at UNCA? What year did you graduate?
Yeah, I'm May McCrory. I graduated from UNCA in 2019 with a chemistry major, no minors. And then I got my master's degree at Furman University in community engaged medicine. And I'm currently in my third year of medical school at Quillen College of Medicine in Johnson City, Tennessee.
Okay. Great.
Dr. Maxwell, can we applaud every single time? Because it was really great to see students.
Yeah, I'm just excited. I had May, I think you were in my dead chem lab, and then organic lab, and I have funny memories I might bring up later.
Yeah.
And I see that Bryce Pugh, are you on? Do you mind if you're able to turn on your screen and say hello? Hi.
Hey, how's it going?
Going well. Good to see you.
Good. I'll introduce myself. My name is Bryce Pugh. I'm a first-year medical student at the Brody School of Medicine, which is at East Carolina University in Greenville, North Carolina. I graduated UNCA in 2023, so last year I was there. I was a chemistry major and a neuroscience minor, and I did research in Dr. Wolf's lab.
Awesome. And we're gonna dive into more of those details in a moment.
Yay! Sorry, it's just exciting to see everybody back. Yeah.
I know, I love it. I get all warm and fuzzy on the inside.
That's right.
Let's see, Grace Sloan, let's have you go next.
Yes, sorry. I hope my service is okay. Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Hi guys, I'm Grace Sloan. I use she, her pronouns. I'm a second year at UNC School of Medicine, and I graduated UNCA in 2022. So I came straight out of undergrad, straight into med school. My major was chemistry with a minor in neuroscience, and I also did research in Dr. Wolf's lab.
There may be a little bit of a theme here tonight, y'all. That is not the rule. It happens to be a theme.
And that's right. That's right.
Donovan, I saw you pop in for a second.
Yes, how are you, Dr. Maxwell?
I'm doing well. Any chance you can turn on your screen for a little bit? If you can, I understand.
I can. I literally just left lab, but I'll turn it on.
Yeah, you got your scrubs on.
Unfortunately, still got them on. So.
Introduce yourself.
Yes, ma'am. So yes, I am Donovan Gilmore. I am a 2019 graduate from UNC Asheville. I was actually a student athlete as well. I am a first-year dental student. I'm at Harry Medical College here in Nashville, Tennessee.
And did you also do a master's program?
Yeah, so I completed a master's of health science. Actually, last year I graduated. That definitely helped me out a bunch. I wasn't ready. I needed some more foundational knowledge, and I was okay with that. So helped me out, got me to where I wanted to be. So
yay! Awesome.
Yeah, and was that at Meharry as well?
Yes, it was also at Meharry.
Okay, cool. And then we're gonna dive into those because I'm really excited. There's a couple of folks who have done master's programs, and y'all can talk about how it was helpful and what it was like. Mm-hmm. And then I see Noah. Noah, hi.
Hey everyone, my name is Noah and I graduated from UNC Asheville in 2021, and I'm currently a second year medical student with Grace at UNC School of Medicine.
Yay!
Yay!
Awesome.
And then one thing, Donovan got a health wellness promotion degree, I believe. Is that right, Donovan?
Yes, I was health and wellness promotion.
Cool, cool. Okay. So, all right. So I just kind of was thinking that we use this time to kind of talk about, just kind of from the beginning, a little bit at UNCA and what was it like being a first and second year, and then going into the application process and all that. Part of my goal is for students who are first years, second years, maybe they did dual enrollment in high school, and so they're coming in with some credits. I want y'all to be able to speak to them too, and how to get involved, how to get connected. Our first area of questions is about the UNCA experience. And so what is your best advice for students in their first or second year of undergraduate coursework? And we can just go around the circle. I'm gonna go clockwise and start with Bryce.
I'm
Clockwise
here.
on my screen. Oh, and Gabrielle Jones. I'm so sorry, Gabby. Thank you. I saw you pop in earlier. Please introduce yourself. I'm glad you spoke up.
It's okay. I graduated December, so like 2023, but the winter session, and I'm a first year at UNC School of Medicine, and I was a biology major.
Yay, Gabby!
Yay, Gabby! Thank you. I'm so sorry. I saw you at the beginning, but it's like my brain's got like 5 different narratives going on in it right now. Anybody else here who is currently in graduate school? I should have asked that earlier. Okay. If you come in late, just y'all, if you see someone pop in, interrupt me and let me know. Bryce, so what would you, how did you get involved in your first and second year? Like, I guess the first question is, did you know you wanted to do something in healthcare? And then how did you start getting experience?
Yeah, so starting college, I did not want to do any like healthcare, STEM, or anything at all. I was just going to take like Spanish and explore some stuff I was interested in, but I guess relatively soon in like first semester, I decided I wanted to do pre-med stuff, or I at least started considering it. And so what I did, and what maybe my biggest form of advice around this would be, is to utilize how small UNCA is and establish good mentors. So like you can form really close connections with your professors or advisors. And so I definitely utilize that, because like all of us, they've seen all of us move through, they've seen what it takes. And so I guess like 4 years ago, Dr. Maxwell probably remembers that I would just kind of like stop by her office every day or so. And then I started doing research with Dr. Wolf. And so I started bugging her every single day, which is probably not the best thing to do, but it helped me, and I didn't really have a lot to go off of. So
No, it just means you were attentive, Bryce. That's what it means.
So yeah, so the big message there, take advantage of how small UNCA is. And then did you have Dr. Wolf in class?
Yeah, so it kind of got the ball rolling with me. I had Dr. Wazaleski for Gen Chem, and then I was like, oh, this is kind of interesting, I guess. And then I had, in my spring semester of first year, I had Dr. Wolf for organic. And then I was like, oh, I want to do chemistry now. And so I talked to her about, well, I guess as a pre-med, I had kind of like heard somewhere that doing research would be a good idea. And so I talked to Dr. Wolf about like, do you do research? Is it something I could do? What would like a timeline look like and stuff like that?
Yeah, and I remember, Bryce, you started shadowing at first, because I think maybe you had just started organic, or but I remember, and tell me if that's right, that you had just kind of started to shadow a little bit in the research that was going on, because you didn't have a whole lot of skill, but you were interested, and you were like wanting to make sure it was something that you were going to still be interested in. You didn't want to like make a huge commitment, and so it was a way of kind of like letting Dr. Wolf get to know you?
Yeah, so that was kind of how I started and how she thought would be a good idea to start was because she has two parts of her lab. So I kind of just, on one side of the lab, I shadowed the three Graces who are a year older than me, one being Grace Sloan, who's here. I kind of just like followed them around while they would do stuff. And then I followed another person around on the other side of the lab, Jacob Shoemate. And once I started to get a little more familiar with like what research is and like in general what the trajectory is and how to do anything, then I kind of started to take on my own project, which again, because UNCA is so small, there's a lot of opportunity to like do your own thing with a lot of one-on-one guidance, like just kind of figuring my way out while Dr. Wolf kind of guides me every single step of the way while still giving me the freedom to kind of take it wherever I wanted to go.
Yeah. All right.
Can you
And then
can you confirm that, Grace Sloan? Can you confirm that he was following you around getting all your advice?
Yes, I do remember when baby Bryce came to Wolf Lab and then quickly became a Wolf Lab legend. But yeah, I saw the whole thing.
you saw the whole thing. You were
You
witness.
saw the beginning. Yes, that's wonderful.
Well, Grace, let's go with you next then. Tell us about what your first and second year at UNCA, like how did you get engaged? Did you know you wanted to do medicine and then how did you just get engaged on campus?
Yeah, so I have pretty much always known that I wanted to do medicine and go to med school. I was also a student athlete, so I definitely had to make a really big conscious decision to prioritize the things that I added to my schedule as being a pre-med and a student athlete was already left little room for anything else. So I think if you find yourself in that situation, utilizing breaks, and then, like I said, really prioritizing what you do is really important. Like I would always shadow during my winter breaks, during summer breaks, fall breaks, Thanksgiving, anything I had, I would try to shadow there. Yeah, what was the rest of the question that you wanted me to talk about?
Just for first and second year students, how can they get involved? How can they? Yeah, I was a really shy student when I was y'all's age, and yeah, so I always needed someone to kind of like spell it out for me. How do I get involved?
Yeah, I think what Bryce said is exactly what I would say is my best advice for first and second years at UNCA is taking advantage of how small it is. I think one of the best things I did when I was at UNCA is just squeeze every drop I could out of my experience, meaning like getting to know my professors. I would stay after class and have extra sessions. I remember I had a private lecture in physical chemistry because nobody else showed up but me, but that was worth it to me. So taking those extra steps to just get the help that is there for you if you will just ask for it was huge to me. You know, like I remember sitting with Dr. Miggs for like 2 hours in review sessions, just him and me, just to get deeper into that material, and having that drive and that dedication to take it a step further with your academics is really huge, and it's really there for you at UNCA. And I think in doing that, like Bryce said, you're going to make those connections. You know, I was doing that when I was in organic chemistry with Dr. Wolf. I took 1 and 2 with her when I was the first and second year at UNCA, and she noticed, oh, this girl wants to be a chemistry major. She's interested in research, and she asked me to join her lab. So I think, you know, the opportunities, you have to work for them, but also if you put in the work, they'll come to you. You know, make those connections, let your intentions be known, and it will come to you.
Great, thank you. Mary, would you go next? What's your advice for first and second year students? And who either know they want to go into medicine or not sure or don't know, regardless.
I did know I wanted to go into medicine. I've always wanted to do that. And so I said I need to major in something scientific. Chemistry was my favorite high school class, so I went with that. I also started research in Dr. Holt's lab my second semester of first year. So I was doing a lot of that. And I had to work all through undergrad as well. So I was working an actual job as well as in the lab. And I did probably way too many student orgs, but I did start getting involved with them first year. Second year, same sort of stuff. And then I also was an RA second year. Yeah, I didn't do any real shadowing or anything.
When did
Yeah.
you sleep? That sounds like a big schedule there. When did you sleep and eat and recreate there?
I was training for my surgery residency. Just
Okay.
I think advice I would give: learn organic chemistry. It sucks. There's a lot of it, and it's not going away. So learn that. There's so many good resources, both on the internet and just at the school, reiterating what everyone has said so far. Like, the professors there want you to succeed. They like will go out of their way to help you. And same thing with classmates, upperclassmen. Like, just ask for help and you will get it. And then I would definitely recommend getting into research as soon as you can. I think that's been one of the most helpful things for me. I'll talk about it again when we talk about third and fourth year advice, but there's so many benefits to the research that we do at UNCA. I think the earlier you can get exposed to it, even if it is kind of just shadowing in those labs, it's super helpful to know how to do that.
Good, thank you. Noah, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so I think for me, I wasn't set on medicine when I started college, and I transferred to UNC Asheville, and so I only did 2 years at UNC Asheville. So I started actually at community college, and so I think for me, volunteering in the emergency room was pretty much what sealed the deal for me. I got involved. I volunteered at Mission Hospital in the emergency department for quite a long time, and I realized that I really did want to pursue medicine at that point. And so I think volunteer experiences around healthcare can help you make that decision pretty quickly in my eyes. And then I think just in general, in your first and second year of college, I really feel like establishing good study habits early, before coursework gets a little more challenging and you start trying to do like more extracurriculars, because that will be necessary to go to any like graduate program, especially in medicine. So I think if you can avoid the habit of cramming for exams and really try to figure out how you learn and keep up with material over the long term, and then that's also going to benefit you when it comes time to take the MCAT or the GRE if you've really like solidified that information. So I think study habits are crucial early on in college.
Good, thanks. Donovan, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so similar to Noah, I was student athlete, so I transferred in as well. So I didn't have the first and second year at UNCA, but I do think that kind of like Noah was saying, to establish those study habits and kind of find what you like and don't like. As a men's basketball player at the time, it was really hard to pick between the rigorous of pre-med, pre-dental courses versus basketball. It's just, for me, with maturity and knowing where I was academically, it wasn't conducive. It didn't make sense for me. So I actually played professionally a bit after, and then I went back and actually took my prerequisites later. That was a very humbling experience, being an older student, taking the Gen Chem 1s, 2s, and it actually was to my benefit because I was able to establish a clean slate in the realm of science courses. And it allowed me to be a little more serious because I was actually coming out of pocket for these classes. And then I took my respected standardized test, didn't do where I wanted to be, retook it after the master's, and here I am. So I think the biggest thing is just being kind to yourself and understanding your development, and most importantly, being honest with yourself. Because for me, actually, Dr. Maxwell, I hope you don't mind me sharing, I actually had a conversation with you about 2 years ago, and being the only professor I had kept in contact with following graduation, you told me like, hey, I think you need a little more time. I think you need a little more time. And I didn't like that, but I respected it, and it worked out because, hey, now I'm in school and I had to take that positive feedback. Being in this field, honesty is key. So.
Oh, that's
Good.
great. Yep.
Well, thanks. I'm glad. I just happened to. So Donovan actually played with the Harlem Globetrotters, and I saw that on like LinkedIn, and I was like, oh my gosh, and I started, and oh no, I saw that, and then I saw that you were interested in dental, and so I reached out to you. So you know, staying, and that's the cool thing about UNCA, kind of going back, I think, to what a lot of y'all have said about it being small. You know, the relationships you develop here are, you know, we're not, you know, they will continue to be fruitful for you. So stay in touch with faculty, go back and visit. That's for the undergraduates. Y'all get to plan ahead for that.
Dr.
Okay.
Maxwell, can I ask Donovan a side
Yeah,
question here?
absolutely.
Donovan, if you play for the Harlem Globetrotters, I saw them as a kid.
Yes.
Do they still play the Generals? And do the
Yes,
Generals ever win?
well, I can't spill all the magic, but yes, we still play the Generals, and I will say we haven't lost since the '70s. So
Oh my God, that's great. Well, congratulations to you. Thank you. It's a great
thank you.
organization. Yep.
Okay, and Gabby, I'm curious about your experience. Were you interested in medicine when you started, and what would you advise for students in their first or second year, or the beginning of their undergraduate coursework?
So I knew I was going to go into medicine or wanted to go into medicine. I had sort of a different path. I had worked in the medical field for over a decade before I went to school. So I knew that I wanted to pursue medicine, and kind of went full force into my undergrad with that in mind. The biggest help for me, I think, I used that 4-year like Excel spreadsheet, the 4-year plan. And that was allowed me to really lay out the whole plan for my entire like education, because not all the classes are available every semester. So and as the biology major, it's kind of a little bit harder too, because there's so many electives that have labs attached that we were required to take. So, and then they weren't offered all the time, and so that really was really, really helpful. So I recommend that. And I was able to get my undergrad done in 3 years because me had worked, you know, a 9-to-5 for a decade. I had never had summers off. So I just thought, well, I'll just go ahead and do summers. And another important thing that I did was I looked at the curriculum to build a foundation for medical school. So I took a lot more biology classes than were required for like prereqs for med school, because there's so much information you're getting all at one time. I didn't want it all to be new information. So I sort of like went in and built a plan, used the extended, 4-year, or, the Excel spreadsheet, and then also took classes that I knew would be helpful for me once I did get to medical school. So I actually didn't do any research. So I kind of just did a lot of, just did really well in my classes. And I did the MAHEC internship, which I thought was really great. And everybody should apply for that summer internship at MAHEC. They're a great organization, and you learn a lot. So yeah.
Thank you. I'm trying to pull up the multi-semester plan. So for students who are who did not come to the Intro to Pre-Health event, let me real quick share my screen.
Yeah, so Dr. Maxwell, while you're sharing your screen, I just want to reiterate something that Gabby just said. The flip side of us being such a small university is that there are going to be some limitations, right? Some courses are not going to be offered every semester. There might be prerequisites that put a wrinkle in the planning there. So having a multi-year plan is really key here. So
Yeah, so like mammalian physiology is only offered in the spring. So what I do with students now is I show them this, and I show them this version of it so that the classes, the class part are grayed out, because everyone kind of knows you have to be smart and take all these classes to get into med school or dental school, but it's those other pieces and parts that I want to make sure students start on early, so that instead of being someone who wants to apply to medical school and you've never shadowed, but you've done all these courses, you've gotten engaged earlier. So and this is just a form that I created that has all the information that I ever want when I am talking with students. You know, what are the prerequisites for the chemistry-based biochemistry? You know, oh, here they are. You know, and that's actually a course that's required. This chemistry-based biochemistry is required by Chapel Hill. So there it is, you know. So, and I make these with students. And yeah, so if you have not heard about one of these, please come to the event. I think it's on Thursday, when we will be talking about this again. All right. And as you see, that going back to what Gabby was talking about, not everyone does research. Like, a lot of people do research, but Gabby had a lot of other experience that she brought to the table. So she was able to show herself as a you know, a unique candidate for medical school through the other experiences. I'm not sure. Donovan was he was the athlete. I don't think you did research while you were. I'm not sure if you did research, but you know, had all this other experience to bring to the table. So you're trying to show that you can do the academics, but you are also, there's more to you than just the academics. If that makes sense.
I will say that during my med school interview, my one-on-one with the faculty, I had put, because I'm into motorcycles, and they talked to me about motorcycles the whole time. They were more interested in you as a person and like you showing like life experience outside of just being a good student. So like really finding things that you enjoy, like hobbies, like really set you apart from other applicants as well.
Awesome.
That's a
All
great
right.
point. And Gabby, if I remember correctly, you had previous experience working in optometry or ophthalmology or something.
Yeah, ophthalmology.
Okay. So again, yeah, like there's many different ways and many different pathways. And that variation can make you unique. And so present that to the people reading your committee letter for sure. Yeah. Thank you.
All right. So we kind of are blurring a little bit into the junior and senior experience, and maybe it's not the best way to divide up the time, but we are going to we're going to talk about exam prep and application. But before we get there, as a junior, as a senior, or a super senior, what advice do y'all have for students? And we can go in the same order if you like. Bryce, I think that was you going first, on the spot.
I have a couple minutes to think, actually.
Absolutely. Does anyone have any unique thoughts about? I will start. What I see students do when they get into their third and fourth year is they start, a lot of times students have developed some relationships with faculty, or maybe they need an extra credit hour, and so they TA for a lab. But you know, once you've taken a class, once you've taken especially like a lab course, you know so much more than that new student coming in. And so and by being a teaching assistant in the lab, you're working with a professor, getting to know them. You're also getting to understand the material more deeply, and you're getting this extra leadership experience because you're now in a role of responsibility and communication with other people. And you realize like some people understand things in one way and someone else that didn't work for them. So you've got to like do it a different way. And so what I see students who are in their, even as early as your sophomore or your second semester of your first year, you can start getting engaged in different leadership experiences. And whenever graduation comes around and I look at the students who are about to graduate, I'm like, oh no, they're so knowledgeable. They're doing so much. Like, what are we going to do without their leadership? And I'm like, oh yeah, this is part of the process. New students will come in and they will train up, but you can start that earlier. We don't want to give you more than you can handle, but we do want to challenge you. And so one way I work with students is with the student group, and helping students, like, ask them, how does it feel? Are you interested in this? Do you want to take a leadership role? And do you need some support? What kind of support? And that can be a lot or a little. So I would, that would be my answer. Like, start leadership experience, maybe working as a tutor, being a TA, things like that.
I would just reinforce those communication skills that you're talking about, Dr. Maxwell, because again, when you walk in that room, whether it's, dentistry, physical therapy, occupational therapy, whatever that is, you're kind of entering a situation where you're going to have to find a way to communicate well with that patient and their family. And sometimes that means using really technical language, and sometimes that means using simplified language, but learning how to develop those skills and those leadership skills are critical. And, everybody might have a different way that they develop them, or different experiences that will help them do that. But just jump in and try these different things, and you might find that you have, a skill in one or the other. So
I'll
Ready?
piggyback.
You ready?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll piggyback a little. I'll say a couple things, but one will piggyback on what you were saying. And this is something I wish I did a lot more in undergrad and like junior and senior year and stuff, or even younger. But and I'm even like trying to get started with stuff like this now, is like you're saying, like helping other people below you or even your classmates, because like the path to medicine is going to get harder and harder. And like there are certain landmarks in undergrad that can be really challenging, like taking the MCAT or like trying to cram a ton of stuff into summers. And so I would say doing little things like tutoring or like PALS tutoring, stuff like that, or even just like group studying or talking to your friends that are going through similar stuff, I think can be really, really impactful. And I don't know, when I was in undergrad, I kind of thought of it like, I need to just like get to where I'm going. I need to focus. Like tutoring, maybe that's not gonna like boost my resume as much as I wanted. But I don't think that's actually true anymore. But two, I think it can be really, really rewarding. And I don't think it's a good environment or community to build where everyone just thinks about getting to where they want to be and not reaching out to get everywhere together. And I think doing stuff like that can be really good if you're really passionate about it. And even if it's like a minor thing that doesn't boost your resume super huge, if you like light up when you talk about it and show how passionate you are about something like that, then I think that can be like way more substantial to your application than other things can be. And then what else I'll say is my advice for third and fourth years, a lot of it's going to be more logistical stuff. So like the MCAT that I mentioned, that was, for me at least, like by far the hardest and most mentally taxing part of like all of undergrad. And even like med school's, like the pace is really, really tough, but I would still rather be here than the MCAT. It was just tough. So don't get really discouraged through that, and understand that it's just something you got to go through, and everyone's going to go through it. So be sure to take care of yourself through stuff like that. And the last thing I'll say, other like logistic advice, is like when looking at schools and stuff, like places that you might want to end up for medical school. For me at least, like you hear all this advice, like don't just like make a super top heavy list on blah blah blah. But I was like, no, I want to be like best of the best. I want to go to Harvard, blah blah. But I think it's just, you need to really be honest with yourself, not like what you think you can achieve, because I think anyone can achieve anything. I think just be honest with yourself with what you really want. And I didn't realize that until like after applying, that like maybe I don't want to be at an Ivy League giant school in the middle of the city. Maybe I would rather have like this smaller school connection like UNCA has. And there are like really good opportunities. Like ECU is the only one I can speak about, is like really small class, and like I just know everyone, I know all the professors really well, but it's also a level 1 trauma center. So we have really huge hospital, we have like all sorts of different specialties. And so I think the key takeaway would just be like, take care of yourself mentally. It's a really challenging thing. So reach out to people, let people know if you need help or if it's getting too much. And also just like be honest with yourself, with what you really want, what you're really passionate about, what your goals are, and make the most of it.
And I just want to follow up on something Bryce said, and I tell students this, and my joke is about like, if the thing you love is math camp, do math camp, because if you like it, you'll be happier. It'll recharge you. You'll get into it, and you will start like taking on leadership roles. You'll be like, oh, if we could do like a math game, but with where we're jumping in the water, okay, and then you're developing things. You're taking on this leadership role, and then when you talk to someone about it, or when you communicate about it, that excitement and that passion will come through. So for me, I felt like I needed to build my resume and go and be a phlebotomist and work in the hospital. And I was like, God, I really don't want to. I called them blood suckers. Sorry, y'all, if anyone's a phlebotomist. Just because I've been a patient where they wake you up at like 4 a.m. to draw your blood. And it's like, oh, people. And they did it to me for so many days in a row that I just started calling them the blood suckers. But, and I was like, I don't, I felt like that's what I need to do to build my resume. But instead I was like, what I really want is to speak Spanish. So if I get into med school or not, I want to be able to speak Spanish, and I want to integrate that into whatever happens in the future. And so I just did that, and I retook Spanish classes. I retook one and then took the higher level at the same time at AB Tech, so I could boost it up. And then I saved money to be able to travel and do one-on-one Spanish language. And then when I'm in an interview, I talked about how, I decided to do that. And this was my goal. And so this is what I've been working on. And, and then I wanted to like get a little more engaged while I was there. And so I tried to get connected with this and that. And, that's a lot more interesting than hearing someone be like, I was a phlebotomist, and I woke people up and I stuck them with a needle, So yeah, follow your passions. Keeping an eye toward your application, the skills you're building. That's the smart thing to do. But you can follow your passions. Gabby talking about motorcycles and her side gig. And that's what the whole interview was about. So let's jump to Gabby. Gabby, you go next. What would you suggest for what's your best advice for students in general in their last or second to last year at school?
I think that there's this rush to, like Bryce was saying, like make it to the next step, but there's like nothing wrong with being on a longer timeline or taking a gap year or or just like not even getting in the first cycle. I think that we get really hard, I think people who want to go into medicine or STEM majors to begin with are pretty hard on ourselves. And so giving yourself a little bit of grace and working really hard, but also like understanding that if there is a setback or you don't necessarily reach a goal that you want to reach at a certain time point, that's okay. Like there's nothing wrong with that. And so I think just having grace for yourself is the my biggest piece of advice.
Yeah, that's really important. And I wish that I see so many students who are so ready to, and maybe some of y'all were like this, y'all were ready to be in, you're ready to get doing it. And it's I actually didn't get in my first year, but I applied. And when I applied my second year, I did a little better on the MCAT, and then I was a much different applicant. I was a lot more mature. I was a lot more grounded. I was just a very different person. And I really think I kind of needed that experience, that time. Unfortunately, it was a little bit costly because it's expensive. But and I've met other people who one of the people who was leading the North Carolina Department of Medicaid during the pandemic. I remember her saying the same thing, that she didn't get in the first year, and she was just so much more mature the next time around. And so it's okay to take time. Plus, once you're doing it, you're in the deep end, man. All y'all are doing is studying. You might have, I assume y'all have one other thing that maybe you do. And so you want to have a little bit of a life going into that. All right, Noah, what would be your advice?
Yeah, I'd really like to echo all of that. And I feel like quality over quantity when it comes to experiences for applying to like med school, in my case, is what I can speak to. I feel like if you really enjoy the experience and get involved, and you take a leadership role, and it's like an extended experience that they can tell you enjoy, I really feel like that speaks volumes when it comes time to interview and send in your application. And I also would like to say that, for me, around my junior year, I had to really like be honest with myself and determine if I was even able to apply to med school, like by my senior year of college. And, and for me, the answer was no, I was not ready. And I was, at first that kind of bothers you, because everyone thinks you should go to college for 4 years and then go straight to med school or grad school. And, for me, that it wasn't going to be the case. And so I had to have that moment with myself to be like, okay, this is where we're at. And I really need to just build a better application. And then on top of that, I needed more experiences, just as a person. And, I did apply a little bit later, and I think I was more mature and just more ready to begin med school. So I will say, like, for me, that ended up being a great thing, even if you're not quite ready your junior year or even your senior year. And so, I had a gap year, and that ended up being great. So yeah, I think, you can start to be honest with yourself as you get later into college. And I think definitely have some grace with yourself if you need to.
Yeah, grace. It's an important word. You're only human. You can only do so much. May, what are your thoughts?
Am I the last one to go? My dog is deciding to be mad right now.
No, Donovan. I'd like to hear Donovan as well. So you want Donovan to go? If we still have Donovan.
I can go.
Okay, good.
Yes. So seems like one of the common themes here is just being honest with yourself. Just to kind of dig into that virtue, I would say I had to kind of go into like betting on myself, like going against the odds, taking chances within reason, obviously. Just to be transparent, the first go around, I only applied to one school because I knew where I wanted to be. With a slightly below average score and a decent GPA, everyone was like, "Oh, you're crazy." So second go around, I applied to 2 universities, get into both, and I was still, all of my mentors were, "Hey, you need to apply 10, 15, 20 plus." I didn't have the means to do that. So I knew that, hey, I want to go to school. I have to buckle down, get these scores, get these grades so that I'm a strong applicant, so that the few schools that I applied to were able to accept me. So I will share, I was admitted into Meharry Medical College, which is where I decided to go, and Tufts University as well up in Boston. And throughout that journey, I learned that sometimes you have to be your biggest cheerleader. You have to support yourself at times, because sometimes people won't always see your vision. Even when what they're saying is valid, it still may not line up with what you see for yourself. Kind of like Noah was saying, like, you got to sit down and have those conversations with yourself and say, hey, this is where I am and this is where I want to go. So just kind of recapping on that, betting on yourself, definitely being coachable and listening to your mentors, but keeping in mindset, like, hey, this is what I want to do and this is what I'm going to do. So.
Yeah, good point. Yeah.
My dog stopped, so I can talk now.
Okay.
Yeah. A cat was outside, end of the world. Yeah. I'm thinking about a couple years ago when I was sitting in this sort of deal, and I remember hearing people say, you don't have to go straight to med school, like kind of what we're doing right now. And knowing I wanted to go to med school my whole life, there was never an option that I was taking a gap year. I was like, I'm going to be disappointed in myself. My family's going to be disappointed in me. Like, even in that meeting, I was like, this isn't applying to me, it's just not an option. I forgot the part where I didn't get to make that decision, unfortunately. And that's really hard at first. It is, if that's like where your head's at and you're going to go straight there. Yeah. But looking back at it, like I had 2 years off. I got my master's as a like fast track master's program in 1 year. And then I worked as an EMT for the second year. Like those years truly changed the kind of physician I'm going to be, and also like prepared me more and made me more mature to go into med school. And I think just like realizing, a lot of other people have touched on this, like, what was I, like 22 maybe when I graduated, and like it felt like the end of the world that I didn't get in that first time. But going into medicine, like by the time I graduate med school, I'm going to be 29. Then I have 5 years of surgery residency, 2 of a fellowship. Like it doesn't end. So what is 1 year? What is 2 years? Like I felt so much more prepared because of it. I was more mature because of it. Like there was just so many things. So it might sound like the end of the world to you to have to take a gap year or 2. I understand that. I was in the same exact place, and it might suck for a minute, but it works out. It always does somehow. I did get my master's. I think that game changing for me. Highly recommend my program. It was community engaged medicine at Furman. I'll put my email down in the chat too, so I won't go on a whole spiel about it, but if you have a question about that or anything else, you can ask me. And then, yeah, I think just knowing that you're a human. Lots of other people have said this. I was on the executive committee of between 3 to 5 student orgs starting my second semester of freshman year. At least 3 to 5 every single semester until I graduated. Useless. I could have picked like 2 of those. Because even in my interviews, those are the only ones I talked about, because those are the only ones I gave a crap about. So I think just doing the things that you're actually passionate about. I remember hearing that 1,000 times too, but it's so true. Like I didn't ever even, there she is again.
Watch out for that cat.
I didn't ever even bring up.
Yeah, so I'm just going to echo what May said, and then also what Noah said. So the quality over quantity. Advisors and admissions committees, they can look at an application and be like, this person's just checking boxes. Like they can tell they've been around the block. And then another thing I want to say, that a lot of, when I go to the statewide advisors or the nationwide pre-health advisors conferences, there is a consensus that we are just generally starting to not say gap year anymore, because it's a gap, but that's, you're just focusing on the school. It's really a growth year. And that's what it was for me. And that's what May was just saying. It was a growth year for her. And what Noah said for him, what Donovan's been saying about his experience, just all this growing. And that makes a big difference. It makes a big difference in the individual, but also if you need another reason, that it's okay. Imagine if you're in an interview, or you're the interviewer and you're going to interview someone who is a junior, or maybe they're in their senior year of college and all they did was go through school. And then you're talking to someone who did a master's program, or worked, was a Harlem Globetrotter, and then did a master's program, or took an extra year and worked. And they have so much more growth that they're going to exhibit in that interview. And so it's not to say you can't go straight through, but it really it is a growth year. It is not a bad thing. It is a good thing. And I think Grace had to jump off, and I'm just eyeing the time. And so let's jump into exam prep. I guess biggest advice on exam prep. Bryce loved it. He can't wait to study for boards.
Yeah, I guess what I'll say is, I'll say a little advice that you've probably heard before and then try and add some to it. But like, figure out what works for you. So like for the MCAT and starting medical school, especially, everyone's just like Anki, 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 use Anki, flashcards, spaced repetition. And so like coming into med school, I'm like, oh, gotta use Anki. And I tried for a little while and I just like could not get into it. And the same for the MCAT. And so I don't think you need to like study in ways that are traditional or that are common. Just like figure out what works for you. So maybe like what I like to do is watching videos, finding stuff online, maybe even like reading textbooks. Like this is our anatomy textbook, and I love it. But just like figure out what works for you. Test prep. If you have any gaps, definitely utilize office hours, talk to your professors, especially at UNCA. They're like, for the most part, like they make the tests and they know it really well. So if there's anything that you don't understand, talk to them about that. And I think it would also be helpful. Like I wasn't much of a group studier. I like to study alone and do my own thing, but group studying can be really helpful. Not like sit around and talk, like everyone just go sit together, put on your headphones, something comes up, take it off, ask a question, put it back on, stuff like that. So exam prep, I guess once you get to med school, you're kind of like forced to figure out what works for you just because of the pace. But like just figure out like what time of day you like to study. Do you want to wake up early? Do you want to stay up late? What methods do you want to use to study? Do you want to be with other people and stuff like that? And sorry, I just saw the comment from med students. Could you speak on the specifics of your MCAT timeline? Yeah, that's a good thing to plan out. So like most people in my class that I was friends with at least or spoke to, they took it like spring, like I think March and April-ish. I decided that I didn't want to study during classes just because I wanted to go like full MCAT all day, every day. And so I studied all winter break and took it like January 21st or something. Which could be good because like I just had all the time to study. But like I was saying before, that was like so mentally taxing and like having to miss like all the festivities for Christmas and stuff. So I think just be smart with it. Don't think working harder is like the most efficient way. Figure out what way works smart, what way works for you, and don't just like brute force your way through something. If you're like in a brain fog, go take a walk, take a break, stuff like that.
Everyone, I'll just jump in and say that we have an event on November 1st, talking about, and we may have to move it because I think it's the same night as a scholarship dinner for, so I'm figuring that out behind the scenes. But there is actually a course if you are planning to study for the MCAT or the DAT or another exam prep. There is a course that you can register for, and one of the things that it's pass fail, and it's really just about supporting you while you study. And what I did for students, what I've heard from most of the successful students, majority of them say they've taken 10, 15 practice tests, and the tests are 7 hours long. And so you have to study, and then the most successful students also say that they study for 250 hours. And that's legit studying separate from the test and of the time that they're putting into tests. And so one of the things I created just to have students try to take that honest look at how they're doing is a document where they put down their scores of the practice test and then reflect on like, how did it go? Did they try a strategy that was different? You know, we have the Princeton Review course grant that we are able to provide to, one year we got up to 12 of them. And it's a live online review course with lots of materials to support your learning, but students always underestimate how much studying they need to do and how much time it's going to take, and how you know, and the benefit of doing so many practice tests, because it sucks. It just sucks. But you are training yourself for like this marathon. And then by the time all these folks go in and take their certification tests to be doctors and dentists, it's going to be like, yeah, this is what I do. This is what we do. And so I'll let y'all keep talking, and I'll find the information about the IST course. And it's one that I'm doing, again, it's pass fail, just to support you through your process of taking the class, or of studying for the MCAT, but you don't actually have to take an MCAT or a DAT. Anyway, okay. What other advice do y'all have as far as MCAT study?
It sucks so bad. Like, it's just gonna suck. And I hate that for you. I don't want to do it again, ever. And it's so much easier said than done. But just where you're at right now, 3rd and 4th year, it all feels like very looming. You're getting close to the end. Don't panic. And like I said, I know that you can just not. But I failed PChem. I retook other classes. Like, it's not the end of the world. We're humans. Like, what's the class? Physics. That sucks. Had to retake that. You have to know it for the MCAT, and then you might never look at it again, and that sucks. That's what sucks about the MCAT. But you're gonna get there.
I will say though, so what is the point of all those classes? Just to give it a high note, give you some reason, so you're not just digging a hole and then filling it back in or something, like you're in the military. So Meg, you're interested in surgery, and surgery uses radiological studies all the time, because you have to, like, before you cut into someone, you want to try to identify, say someone was has an injury, you need to look at the radiological studies to identify what's involved. What do I need to be concerned in? Are there foreign bodies in there? And you need to know it in multiple dimensions. And when you take physics, you're starting to understand, like, the impact of force, or different angles, or it's helping you build this foundation in the same way that learning another language, even if you can't speak it fluently, it gives you more insight into your own language. So I think there is a method to the madness there.
I think there's a little bit in every subject that we have to learn for the MCAT. There is a little bit that applies, for sure, or a lot of bit. But I also understand, like, it feels like so much information at one time. So if you're feeling like that, you're not alone, because it's overwhelming.
I think Dr. Maxwell told this to me when I was in undergrad, but I really think it's true. The best preparation you'll get for the MCAT is your coursework. So, like, don't just, like, cram before the exam, get it out. Like, focus on your classes, especially ones that are relevant to the MCAT, like physics, physiology, stuff like that. Like, focus, really genuinely learn the material, and that'll prepare you well.
Yeah, you like, Chapel Hill has, I use Chapel because a lot of people, are interested in going there. But they have a cutoff for GPA. So you want to be making A's and B's, but it's better for you to get like a B or a B plus, but really know the material, have spent that extra time really understanding than cramming and getting an A, because the MCAT is testing you on how much you really understand and can problem solve with material. And as a physician or as a dentist, that's what you're going to be doing. And that's why they make you, that's why they test you to see if you can do it. Noah, I'm curious about, because I know you, I seem to remember, like, you took the MCAT and then you decided, like, you figured out a better way to study that was more effective for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's what I was actually going to go into, is that I think you need to find a way to repeat information and to get and to reinforce things that you've learned, because you can learn the content one time. But, like, for me, my study session, or my study time for the MCAT, was around 3 months. The first time I took it, I took the MCAT twice. And, I had 3 months set aside to study full time over the summer. And by the time I got to the end of the summer, I wasn't reinforcing enough of the information again that I had learned at the beginning of the summer. And you kind of I did learn it and I did know it, but it just wasn't fresh. And so I would say find a way that works for you, whether it's Anki or making your own flashcards, some way that you can reinforce material over the long term, because you are going to need to hold on to a lot of information for, several months at least, maybe more. And then I will say, don't rush into taking the MCAT just because you feel like you need to and you think you've got like a timeline, because I took the MCAT and I had a certain score in mind and I wasn't satisfied with the first score that I got. And so if you think it sucks studying for the MCAT once, it sucks harder studying for the MCAT a second time and doing like another 3-month dedicated study period. So and they also, all the schools, they are going to see all your scores. And so it does help to, in my mind, just have one good score that you're pleased with, and you don't have to study twice for a terrible test.
I will admit that I was not the best MCAT prepper, and but I took the MCAT, I think April of my junior year. And I hadn't I hadn't made it through. I was in physics 2 at the time, so I hadn't even made it through all the content, like my coursework that would prep me for the MCAT. And I think that I probably would have done a little better if I would have waited until maybe the summer. But if I wanted to have the opportunity to retake the test and still apply in the same timeline, so I wanted to take it the spring, and if I needed to retake it in the summer, I could have retaken it again and still applied that same year. But I liked the Khan Academy resource. They have a whole MCAT resource that's free, and that was like another issue for me, is like I couldn't afford a lot of the resources available for MCAT prep. So I used Khan Academy a lot, and I only took the test once, so obviously it prepped me enough to make it. But yeah, just I think try to get through the courses before you take the test. I think I would have, if I had to do it again, I would have done that.
That's another thing that I have seen with students since we have started getting these, since we've received this grant for the Princeton Review MCAT course, and those will be, there's a brief application to fill out so that we can provide it to the students who our funder tells us to. But when I talk to students, and from what my experience is, the best MCAT prep is when it's review. You take the class, like Bryce was saying, you use the classes to really just focus on learning then, and then your MCAT study should be review. I've known other students who took the MCAT without taking physics 2, and it's just that little extra bit of content. You just don't want that counted against you. And also when you're trying to you're trying to study for the MCAT, but you're in biochemistry right now, it's like you're getting it new. It needs to be a review, not a first pass.
I'll also say, even though we're all like, oh, this sucks, this is the worst time of your life, it's terrible, try and not have that be your mindset when you go into it, because your mindset can really dictate how things are. This is the path to do what you want to do, so enjoy it. Think about maybe it's really tough, but think about, wow, this is really cool that I'm learning this, I love studying, and just tell yourself that. Even if it's hard, don't just wake up and dread the day going forward. Try and keep a good mindset, and that'll help you retain things better.
Yeah, and I'd like to echo that and also say how I kept a decent mindset was still working in time to do things that I enjoyed, even though I had to study a lot. So take a break and go exercise or listen to some music or a podcast or something. Definitely don't just try to study for 8 straight hours. Like it's just not going to be as productive as if you broke it up into chunks and you can work in things that keep you happy. And that way you can, really keep up with the material and things for an extended period of time instead of kind of getting burnt out and getting fed up with it. I think you can keep yourself fresh by still scheduling time to do things you like.
So, I'm curious, Noah, did you do the Princeton Review course?
Yes, yeah, I did do the Princeton Review course, and I will say that it helped tremendously. And I definitely think it was good because I got to go back through and learn some things that I had forgotten from my earlier years in college, which was super helpful. And I think for me, the mistake I made was not combining that with enough repetition personally. That was really what set myself apart the second time I took the MCAT, was just that I had a better way. I used UNCA. I used this service called MIM. And it's basically just like spaced repetition. And that just worked for me. But the Princeton Review course was really good for covering material, and they have excellent practice question banks, and they're really difficult. And if you do well on those, like, you will crush the AAMC's exams. And so I will say that helped prep a ton, was using their practice exams and questions.
What about Gabby? Did you have much benefit from the Princeton Review course?
I don't know if I just didn't utilize it in the way I needed it to work for me. I think it would be great for people who, like, the material was already really fresh for me from my coursework. Where I needed help was, oh, can you help me with this like specific topic, or like how to pick out like shorthand math problems, and they were like, that's not part of this course, so that's like a different class and that you can, like, pay to take. And so I think I need more nuanced assistance. It was really good for like being able to like dissect questions quickly and like pull because sometimes there's like a lot of extra information to kind of confuse you. And like it helped me learn how to read questions better, and like process of elimination, and like take a test. But I think I needed a little more nuanced assistance, and I ended up going to like different resources for that.
And May, did you do any kind of MCAT prep course?
I did Kaplan.
You did Kaplan?
Yeah, I liked it.
So and I ended up doing a Kaplan because that was what was available. So I'm going to share my screen real quick just to show students, if you are thinking about, so you are certainly not required to do the Princeton Review, but we are given scholarships, and it doesn't affect your financial aid. But they give you all this. Let me see, this is kind of small. Whoa. And I'm making y'all nauseous. Okay, so they give you full-length practice tests. They actually give you the AAMC, access to the AAMC test through the Princeton Review. I'm sorry. And then they have these different question packs. And I mean, it is a robust, I think they've gotten better too. I think it's 2 nights. It's 2 nights a week, 3 hours per night. And they review material, and then they do a passage with you. And students found that some of it was really beneficial and other parts weren't. And it's live, but online. And so, and they record it so that you can come back and watch it later. But the benefit of it being live is you can ask questions. And then, but there are other options for students who are interested. I'm still sharing my screen. Okay, so I have, majority of my resources right now are for medical school, but I have a resource just to help students coming up with a study plan. I think this is really important because you are most likely going to underestimate how much you need to study and how long it's going to take. And like, when I did it, I created a study plan, but I never gave myself breaks. So I was always behind because I didn't allow myself time to get coffee or go to the bathroom or anything. And so creating a study plan that's reasonable and giving yourself some room for it for you to postpone the test if you need it, or in fact, and include things like Noah was saying, giving yourself, I think it was Noah, talking about giving yourself a break, giving, things that you have fun, and look at it like you are training for a marathon, because what you're training for is to be able to solve really like problems about a patient. It might be emotional. You're tired, your feet hurt, you're hungry, but you're taking care of someone and their life, they're looking to you to support them emotionally and to take care of them physically. And, and so you're just think of it as a way of training to be able to have the stamina to be that person. Khan Academy has free resources, and they have linked with the American Academy of Medical Colleges, AAMC, to create that content. So it is possible to do all this stuff for free, but you do need access to practice tests. There's also a fee assistance program and it's relatively generous. So I also highly recommend that students at least look into the fee assistance program to see if they qualify. And then, I'll talk more about the class when we do our thing on November 1st. But prepping for the MCAT takes a chunk of time. And then applications are another area where I often see students underestimate how long it's going to take to complete the application and get it to a place where they feel like it's ready to submit. Can y'all speak on that real quick?
I think I took a whole academic year to write my personal statement, and I would rewrite it and rewrite it and rewrite it and refine it, and then take a break from it and come back to it. And because it's really weird to write about yourself in that way, and you want to sell yourself, but you don't want to sound like you're bragging or you want to come across genuine. And so I think taking plenty of time to write your personal statement is I think really important. And the applications themselves do take a lot of time. The secondaries, you're basically writing a bunch of essays over again, and every school pretty much sends you a secondary, and you're spending a lot of time writing their more specific questions that they send you.
I did pretty much the same thing. I spent probably over a year just reiterating and reiterating, but I think that doesn't need to be the case because I did a lot of change in what I thought should be written. So at the beginning, I'm how can I sell myself? How can I write a creative masterpiece that will make them go, wow? But that's really not what the personal statement is. Pretty much the same with work and activities and secondaries. Yes, you do want to sell yourself, but like we've been saying before, these are spots where you want to just be genuine. And especially the personal statement, no one's going to read your personal statement and be wow, we need to accept them based on this alone. It's going to be a lot more just okay, now we can start putting together the picture of who this person is. And so I would say just tell your actual story and don't do anything crazy, sappy, trying to make yourself seem like the best, most unique person ever. Just genuinely say why you want to be a doctor and stuff like that.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And I would also like to add, I had multiple different people in different roles in my life read the personal statement, and that helped kind of get some ideas flowing. And then obviously having, someone like Dr. Maxwell or someone who knows, med school admissions that can give you really good specific feedback. And then also it can help to have someone who just knows you read the personal statement. And and see what they think about it. I know I had people close to me read it and they gave me great ideas, and I was able to add and edit stuff. But I did give myself like, I think 6 to 7 months to just kind of write it and, edit it, send it to someone, let them edit it. Like I really tried to give myself time, so I didn't have to cram. And then when it comes time to fill out the application, it takes forever to describe all your experiences. So try to start as soon as it's open. Try to start filling stuff in. And secondaries, if you have the time, pre-write them. I was working full time when it was time to write my secondaries, and so I didn't have a ton of time to pre-write, and I would just end up writing in the morning before work and then write at night until I fell asleep after I got home from work. And so it can take a long time, but if you have the time, pre-writing secondaries will definitely help.
Also plug for the writing center. They helped me write mine, or they helped me like go through my edits, so utilize them for sure.
Yeah, Brennan has been helping a number of students, and I've talked with Brennan about strategies. And what I see, and I always tell students this, like, just first you just got to start writing. Just get some stuff down. But then look at what you wrote, and if you're describing an experience that leads to why you want to go into this field of healthcare, what I usually see is students will write about their experience, and they'll take out like that much of the page, and then they'll write about what it meant to them. And that's really teeny tiny. And I'm like, all right, now I want you to do this, and I want you to do that. And that's kind of the what you want to do with that. You want to communicate in your personal statement kind of the why, and then what you're going to do about it. Like, there was this, and this is what I did from it, and about it, and this is what I learned, and this is how I grew, and this is how it challenged me. Like, it's that other stuff. It's not so much the one thing that happened. And I call them speed bumps. Not doing well. Something happens. You fail a class, whatever. You have to retake PChem, which gosh, there's a reason they make bumper stickers that say "honk" if you pass PChem. It happens, and then what did you? It's not so much that it's not important so much that it happened. It's what did you do about it? Because honestly, if you need a reason for why, when you get into medical school, dental school, or graduate school, whatever it is, you're going to hit speed bumps. What are you going to do about it? What skills do you have that are going to help carry you through? Because if you've never hit a speed bump, and it happens when you're in graduate school, that you may not deal with it very well. So they really want to see how you grow, and how did you apply what you learned? How did you change? How did you not change? Decide, what, I like this about me. I hate PChem. I don't know. It's students talking about taking a lot of time. I wrote 12 drafts of my personal statement. I don't remember how many months, but it was a lot. And it was just refining and getting it to a place where I felt like I was communicating well. And so I would just recommend that you start writing. The AAMC has an applicant guide. I'm trying to open it for y'all, so at least I can add the link. Here we go. So, like, getting a Chrome extension, sorry. So like Noah said, start putting in the information as soon as possible. You can look, hopefully that will get you there. You can look at the application and what's on it. And you can start that in the background. The application will open in May, and you can start typing stuff in then, but you could already have it all written. So I encourage you, if you're thinking about applying to medical or dental school or other programs, start drafting things you might want to include in your personal statement now. Just start a journal. Just start writing ideas. And for me, getting started is one of the hardest things. And so what I will do is actually put in an earbud, and I'll go for a walk, because I'm ADHD. I gotta, when I'm moving my body, sometimes my brain's working a little bit better, and I just start talking about ideas. And I talk and let it dictate into a like an email or into a Google Doc, and it is a mess, but at least I have something to start with, you know? And so, you know, you just, and honestly, kind of going back to figure out what works for you with studying, this is what works for me with writing. Like getting started on writing something is one of the hardest things for me, especially a personal statement. This is what I found works for me. Something else, maybe it'd be like, maybe instead talking to someone. I've also had students where I ask them questions. This is when I had more time, and they would just start talking to me, and I just start typing out things that they say as fast as I can, you know. And I'm like, okay, this is, you said this, you said that, you said this, and like, here's the start of your personal statement. Do y'all have any other advice? I want to be mindful of time. Any other? We might try to invite you back later when students are actually, like, when the fire's kind of under them and they're like actually looking at applying or studying for the MCAT, things like that. But any last advice or any other questions from the folks who are here? Guess I should ask, for questions first. And Forbes, did you get a clear enough answer for studying as well? But first, Theodora, how did you decide which schools to apply to?
For me, I just looked at what was closest to me, in a sense of like what I would get in-state on, really is what I'm trying to say, tuition wise. I also wanted to be semi-close to my family, so I looked at that. And then I wanted a smaller school as well, and someone had talked about that. So I'm just looking at class size. You can tell a lot from the schools just on like their social media and their web pages too. So kind of getting the vibe there. I loved UNC Asheville, so I wanted something that felt similar to that. And I didn't have tons of money in applying, so I only applied to 6 schools both times around. I applied twice. And so, yeah, I had to be a little bit more selective. And I think that was really the main thing: tuition and size, and if it felt like UNCA.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I looked at the same stuff, and you can find probably a lot of stuff online that's like the main things that you want to look for. One thing that I kind of heard but I never really paid much attention to, and I'm fortunate that it worked out for me, is the curriculum of the school. And I know like you don't want to be too picky, just like get in wherever you can get in, but like there's some things that I think I would not be happy if I went to a school that didn't do that. And one thing that comes to mind that I've been really realizing recently is like a school that has a cadaver lab. Like I would not want to be learning anatomy without dissecting a cadaver. Like it makes it so much more fun. It makes it so much more enjoyable. And also, like, one of my friends goes to a different school, and he says right now all of their classes are just like biochem, molecular biology, like all the like really small chemistry, biochemistry stuff, which is like great, but I don't know, like at this point, and that's what I loved in undergrad, but now I'm like, if I didn't have anatomy, like I would not, this would be so like hard and dull and boring. So like look at the curriculum and see if it's something that you would enjoy and want to do. And I would say definitely like I wouldn't even apply to a school that didn't have a cadaver lab, in my opinion, but I'm really liking anatomy.
I second that.
Yeah, I agree with all that, honestly. And then this is super detailed, but if your school doesn't give you NBME exams, I think it's probably harder to take step. If they're still like writing their own exams, like the professors in your classes and stuff, that's awesome, and you might be learning a lot for sure. But I think taking your step exams is obviously very important. And I think having an NBME practice throughout your whole medical education, and especially the preclinical years, makes a huge difference and helps you be prepared for those licensing exams. So that's very detailed. And I don't even know if that information is available on the school's websites, but you could look for it.
And I'll just say one thing real quick. At the end of the day, like you're going to be able to get what you need out of it at any school. Like you're going to have an amazing education. Like every school is gonna have it, and like you're gonna be able to get to where you need to go. So don't stress too much about like not ending up at the ideal place. Like still look for places and apply to places that seem like a good place to be, but like you should be able to enjoy anywhere.
Talking
I
about
just-
the step exams. Oh, sorry. I just wanted to throw out the idea of like studying for the MCAT. You take practice MCATs, so like because studying and doing really well in your biochemistry and mammalian physiology class is great, but then you go and sit down for an MCAT and you've only taken one practice, you're going to be like, you got to kind of train for it. So I didn't realize schools didn't all use the step exams, and it's just like the exam at the end of the course.
For me, I knew what specialty I wanted to go into, and UNC has the first program, which is an accelerated 3-year program for certain specialties. So my first choice was UNC, and also applying to the first program. Luckily, I got into UNC and was able to pursue that. Outside of that, I applied like locally, and then I'm from Northern California, so I applied around where I'm from. So if I was gonna have to move again, like a significant distance, it would be closer to home. So geography, and then just like a program that I was really interested in.
So, a story that I tell students is, one thing to consider is when you get time off, do you want to spend it traveling in a plane or in a car? And I went to Chapel Hill, and I would drive back to Asheville, and I knew people who were able to just drive over to Raleigh to visit their parents for Thanksgiving dinner and then go home. And I was like, I'm literally one Thanksgiving was crying on the way home. I was talking to my parents, and I was like, I'm so tired. I just want to be home. And it just would have been really nice. So, just taking things like that into account. UNC Chapel Hill is coming here with the Office of Rural Initiatives. They'll talk about the first program, and that's on October 24th, and that is lunch is provided. We also have Eshelman Pharmacy. I'm kind of going backwards now. Eshelman Pharmacy on Friday is doing an interest meeting, and then the intro to pre-health. I'm not sure what level everyone our UNCA students are at, but if you are not familiar with that multi-semester plan or the pre-health program here, please come on Thursday night. All right, back to y'all. Any other last minute questions from folks in the audience? While y'all are thinking, I'll throw out, I think that from my experience too with advising students, it's good for students to hear things more than once. And so we might reach out to y'all again to see about something like this, maybe focus just on exam prep. And it won't be as long. I'll keep it to an hour because I know y'all are busy and you're tired. Any other thoughts from folks who are listening or from folks who are sharing your experiences? All right. Well, thank you everyone for your time tonight, because I know it is busy. I remember, I'll leave you with my experience from med schools. I remember you have to study so much that I got so sick of studying. I went to sleep at like 8 at night, but I knew I still needed like another 4 hours of studying. So I woke up at 4 so I could study, because I was like, I'm just so sick of studying. I just have to stop now. And just, I'm going to sleep. I'm gonna get my 8 hours of sleep. I'm gonna wake up and keep going. So pacing yourself and just yeah. And y'all give yourselves grace as well. Y'all were telling everyone else, but
You'll be perpetually tired for Like they say med school's hard, but then like I don't know. And I don't know if it's just UNC has a new curriculum as well. So I'm the guinea pig of the new Tech 2.0 curriculum. So I don't know if it's a combination of everybody sort of not knowing what's going on is adding to the stress and overwhelmingness of it all. But yeah, perpetual fatigue for sure.
But it's worth every single second of being tired. So still do it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's so like it's so fun and like everyone's so excited to be like doing what they like want to be doing. Like it takes so much work to get there, and there's just like a lot of like excitement and just like everyone's very eager, and it's very cool to experience. So we're all tired, but we're in it together, and it's really cool, and you're learning so much, and it's really interesting.
Yeah, I second that. There's some amazing people here. Everyone in your med school class has different experiences and comes from a different place. And it's really cool to meet all these awesome people who want to be great doctors. And I think med school is amazing, even though you're tired. I mean, it's been an amazing time, and you're learning just awesome stuff, and you're going to be able to help so many people one day. So it's totally worth it. But yeah, there's a lot of fatigue.
When I was there, they said, I heard people say your first year of med school is the hardest. And I think it actually it does get harder, but you're used to it. It's that transition that, figuring out how many hours a day you need to study, and that you get one extra thing that you do for fun. So work-life balance, what do y'all do for fun? How do you balance now? You talked about work-life balance some with studying for the MCAT, but how do you do it now while you're in school? That we can maybe make that our last question.
It's hard. I think there's times where it's a lot harder than other times, and that's how it's going to be for the rest of our lives. So you have to adjust your priorities a lot of the time, and sometimes you have to put more into school than you do into doing like hobbies or stuff. My first year, I definitely didn't make enough time for it, to the point that I was at the point where I was like, I'm going to have a mental break if I keep doing this. Like I was just not making any time to do things that made me feel like human, honestly. So there's things that I love. Like I've gotten back into painting. So I'll do I'll do 200 flashcards, and then I'll like let myself have painting for the rest of the night. Or I love kayaking. So I'll go kayak and do my flashcards on my kayak. Like I've just had to find ways to integrate them together. I haven't dropped my phone in the lake yet either, doing my Anki on my kayak. So progress. Listening to podcasts of different lectures, like walking my dog. Me and my friend's second year would go on Anki walks, and we like wouldn't even talk to each other. We would just be in the same place and like do our flashcards when we walked. Like you have to make adaptations to things that you like. And then of course you can just do the things you like as well. But time management looks very different when you're in med school. And the work-life balance phrase is so reused, but it really is that. Like it's balance. It's not equal. It's sometimes very off balance, skewed to one side, but it's doable. And it's so much more doable and more fun when you like recognize that you are human and that you can't just stare at a book all day.
Gabby, are you getting out on your motorcycle?
No, sadly, that's the hardest part. Like I can't justify going on like an hour, 2 hour rides because I literally have like no extra time. But I have been like, I do crafts and stuff. So I took on, I'm started like smaller, like I'm knitting a pair of socks right now. And like that's like a doable, like reasonable project. Maybe not like the most fulfilling projects that I normally work on, but it definitely allows me to stay a little bit crafty, I guess.
Yeah, and I definitely agree with everything everyone says. Is like you kind of have to integrate your schoolwork in with your life. And so like I've definitely watched lectures at the gym while I was like lifting weights, and like I've done Anki on the treadmill. And you really have to be intentional with your time for sure. And I think it ebbs and flows. There are times like certain organ system blocks are so much harder than others, and so like I only make it to the gym or get to exercise like 3 or 4 times in a hard week, and then sometimes I can go every day. But I think you really will, and you'll also get more efficient. Like I'm so much better at studying. This is my second year now than I was this time last year, and so I can take in more information at a better pace, and you really will like train yourself to study better and really get more efficient. And so yeah, it's all about being intentional though, and just keep going.
For me, it's been about trying to like not antagonize work so much as being like an opposite of life. Like try and make work and school something that you enjoy. And for me, at least, a lot of that has been people. It's all about people because like everyone says it, but like med school is really hard. So like every day is like a week. And so you get this like trauma bonding experience with all your classmates, and you're all just like become so close so fast. And so like I think it would be so miserable if you just like went by yourself and just studied all day every day, and like you could do that and like you could get good grades, but it's just going to be so miserable. So you really need to like maybe take an evening off, take a like time to study with someone else, and just like I'll talk again about cadaver lab just because I love it so much, but like my group, we're always just joking around and laughing, but we'd be efficient. So like make sure you're getting stuff done, but just enjoy it while you go. It doesn't have to be such a miserable, like grinding, studying experience. Like figure out ways to enjoy it and make games out of it and stuff like that.
I encourage y'all to do that in undergrad as well. Well, thank you again for your time, for your knowledge, your insight, your openness to share. It means a lot. And I wish y'all all luck and lots of rest and good food. And we're rooting for you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Bye.
Dr. Maxwell.
Bye. It's great to see you all.
Great to see you, Dr. Maxwell. Take care.
Good to see you too. Bye. Bye, Theodora.
Hi, Dr. Maxwell. I didn't get to take notes on the spreadsheet, but I linked the notes that I did take into the spreadsheet, and I can move them over if needed.
Oh, okay. That's fine. I wondered if the spreadsheet was gonna be too weird. I just wanted a way that we could
Well,
compare
it
things.
didn't come through in time. People had already started talking, and I was like, oh goodness, I've gotta get a move on.
I was hoping someone else would take notes for us so that you didn't have to, but you're awesome. You had a good attendance. I'm gonna stop recording. I was really shy when